Still in Nigeria, the government there expects to raise more than $1 billion through a tax amnesty program, which is designed to encourage individuals and companies to clear their unpaid tax dues by the end of the year. Now, the funds raised will enable the West African country, assuming it actually gets to that point, to reduce its borrowing needs, allowing investment in vital infrastructure and spur development, at least according to the Finance Ministry. Nigeria plans to increase spending this year by about 21%. Its budget for 2017 is about $22.8 billion. Now, that plan requires a lot of funds to help the oil producer plug a deficit that the government expects will amount to roughly 2.2% of GDP. Tax evaders in the country are subject to imprisonment of up to 5 years, payment of penalties of up to 100% of tax owed, plus compound interest at a rate of 21% per year, as well as forfeiture of their assets. As I mentioned a little earlier on in the hour, Nigeria is carrying out a fairly interesting tax amnesty program. The most recent on the continent, in fact, was on two opposite ends of it. Kenya tried one, Ghana tried one in 2012. So how will Nigeria execute its own version of this amnesty program? Let's find out. Deji Banwas joins us now live from Lagos and more on this story. Deji, so the Finance Ministry says it's hired asset tracers, it's hired forensic investigators to help track down all these taxes and assets that have not been declared. Do we know who these people are?
Not exactly, Rama. We don't know. And by the way, what the Nigerian government intends to raise from this is around $1 billion, and that's a lot. So we just might succeed. If we're able to do that, that's a lot of money, and that means it will cut down, we would have to cut down on our borrowing. Anyway, we do not know who these tracers are. The government has not disclosed their identity yet. What we do know is that before now, the government has already signed a number of agreements with countries like the United States of America, the United Kingdom, Canada, the United Arab Emirates, with Switzerland, Bahamas, and Panama, you know, to exchange information on citizens now, especially information pertaining to tax. And what the government is saying is that that is what we're going to see going forward. So for some Nigerians who, for instance, stash money away in some of these countries, especially in their bid to dodge paying tax here, then those countries have actually signed an agreement now to cooperate with Nigeria to send, to share this information now about these individuals or companies. And so it means Nigeria, the government here will have to go after these individuals. So, but in terms of the identity of these, you know, the tax, the tracers, so to speak, the government has not revealed their identity yet, even though it has confirmed it has actually engaged them.
All right, so let's bring this down to an example we can all understand. Let's say, for argument's sake, I'm a Nigerian, I've got $50 million stashed somewhere out there, some random little tax haven. So according to this deal, I will be immune from prosecution. I will not be paying any penalty charges. I will not pay interest on the undeclared tax. But what sort of taxes do I then have to pay to the government now if I bring that money back and I declare those assets?
Now, in that case, Rama, what is going to happen is, I mean, we would have to find out, for instance, the government will have to find out how, for instance, you earned that $50 million. For instance, if you are a worker here, you were working for a company and you got this money and just decided to stash it away somewhere, and now you've decided to bring it back. What the government will basically do is to bill you, basically, you know, you're going to pay for your personal income tax now. And the government says, well, you'll be immune from prosecution, you'll be immune from, you know, the normal interest you would have paid for dodging the tax in the first place. So it all depends on the kind of tax that the government determines you should pay. If, for instance, you're a company, you're running a company in this country and you dodged paying tax, you evaded paying tax here and you stashed the money away, eventually you decided to declare that money, and what you will be required to pay will be company income tax, of course. So it all depends. It all depends on you know, the status of the earning, and if it's related to a company, of course, we're talking about company income tax. If you're talking about a petroleum company, for instance, then you'll be talking about the petroleum profit tax. So it will all depend. But the most important thing is that, well, you'll be immune from prosecution. You wouldn't have to pay the normal interest you would have paid for evading the tax in the first place. And of course, you also would not be required the most important thing is that you won't be prosecuted, at least that you're coming out to declare. But remember that after December the 31st, you would no longer be able to enjoy those privileges.
Indeed. We'll leave it there for the time being. Let's see how this amnesty program works out. Thank you for that. That's Tej Badmus, of course, live there in Lagos, Nigeria.